Hello, welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things holistic. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. Today, Dan McDonald is back for another interview. We take a deep dive into spirituality, the epidemic of constipation, cleansing and detoxification through juicing, water fasting, and using Puradyme products to regenerate and assist in the detoxification process. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Lee. And today is part 2 with Dan McDonald, the Life Regenerator. I'm so excited to have you back on for this part 2. We're going to talk about some other things today. We're going to get into water fasting, juice fasting, the Puradyme products, talking about enzymes, dehydration, all of these things that are kind of up for a lot of people right now. And also, too, I would like to bring up your Patreon, your Elite Video Club, as just being a community and a platform for support for others who want to learn and grow in this space. And your vulnerability and your honesty is kind of like an invitation for others to open themselves up for this path. So I'm part of it and I love it, and I can't say enough about it. It's a beautiful place to be. So thank you for coming on today again with me.
Thank you, Cheryl Lee. Everybody really enjoys your energy and your space holding and your questions. And I really appreciate it too. It's kind of cool. There's a couple interviews that I've done recently where the people were like, what the hell? So you're over on the Elite Video Club, so you get to see the real me. So you're not
Yes.
like blown back by some of my unconventional answers, because I'm just not in the cookie cutter mode right now. I have been
No.
tempered and tempered and tempered and tempered some more. And what we need right now is radical authenticity and
Yep.
truth, of what's really going on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the consults that I've been doing lately, I've been noticing that people, they go and they get a hold of somebody for something and they just get the cookie cutter answers. And
Yep.
I just don't think that's going to be of service to people. And so
Yeah.
I've noticed lately with the consults is I'm just like cutting right through the BS. I don't really have this like one size fits all. Like, it's cool that you mentioned the Puradyme, because that's my little protocol.
Yeah.
Every teacher healer has to have like a protocol, because 80, 85%, 90% of the people, they need a skeleton, a
Yep.
structure. And that is a really powerful, structure. But then, eventually, as you start to evolve, cleanse, and start to ask deeper questions, you're going to have to look at some of the more deeper issues that aren't
Yeah.
so cookie cutter in our society. You have to dig a little deeper. I think that we look for the easy way first. And
Totally.
after a decade or two of the easy answer not working, then we finally accept, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do what really works, which is live in alignment with the law,
Yes.
which then you have to give up all your stuff, all your tricks, all your distractions.
Yeah.
And we've used those our entire lives to survive.
Yep.
And so letting them go and letting the divine intelligence or the life flow current move through us unimpeded and allow that to bring up whatever it needs to bring up,
Yep.
that we have to feel, face, look at, see, and allow to be transformed within us. It takes a lot of
Absolutely.
courage.
It
It's
does.
courage.
It takes a lot of courage to do that. And I feel like with you, I use the word invitation because especially for men in the space, it's now becoming more available for men to be able to feel their feelings and to open up, because really on the subject of, detoxifying, cleansing the body without really up bringing up and out all of those emotional aspects within ourselves, the hurts, the traumas, the wounding, you can only get to a certain level. And we kind of we touched on that a little bit in our last interview, where you can't start feeling the feelings and then push it back down and think that taking the cleanse or doing a juice fast or a water fast is going to be your be all end all if you're not willing to push through the hard part. And the hard part for most people is the emotional aspect of things.
Sometimes the water fasting especially, and the juice fasting, or living foods
Mm-hmm.
diets, they're going to force it to the
Yeah.
top. And if you don't have a top of the mountain overcomer kind of attitude, you'll be able to go so far. And hey, you can even distract yourself during a water fast. It
Yeah.
is a
Right.
lot harder, but it depends also, what are you fasting from? Social media? Are you fasting from sex? Are you fasting
Mm-hmm.
from your job? I mean, so I saw that particularly strongly when I went to the wilderness to do that 10-day fast. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you have nothing. Then you
Mm-hmm.
really have the only thing entertaining to do is to face your crap, and you have nowhere to run.
Right.
And so that's why those, like the living foods, which is the law of life, you
Mm-hmm.
know, all living organisms on planet Earth, consume other living organisms without cooking it. And so there's an energy transfer there that allows for more of that conductivity. Whereas if it's the heavier, more cooked, denser stuff can just continually
Right.
block the, the life current, as well as, of course, all the other 9 million things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
As we evolve spiritually, we want to strip those away. We can no longer justify. You see what you're doing. You're like, I'm
Mm.
not even hungry,
Yeah.
or like, am I really just smoking weed with my uncle because I like hanging out with him, or am I trying to
Yeah.
like avoid,
Yeah.
or the video games, or the
Mm-hmm.
masturbation, and I'm not anyone's judge because I've done it all. So
Yep.
I'm just awareness is, being cultivated for a lot of different reasons. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
you can go slow and steady and just sort of like, sort of play
Yeah.
with the spiritual path. But eventually those seeds of satsanga and the books and the videos and that intention begins to snowball, and other things might come up in your life, like a disease or like a
Right.
potential divorce, or relationships are the ultimate yoga,
Yeah.
that catalyzes you to go, wow, like a husband is going to lose his wife of 23 years
Yeah.
if he doesn't.
If you, yeah.
And it's both of them. It takes two. It's like a mirroring, thing that's going on there
Yeah.
between relationships and whatnot, and then a lot of times one blames the other. But if you take responsibility, one of the philosophies that I have is that when you change the way you look at someone, then they change,
Yeah.
the energy
Absolutely.
changes. But we have all these dynamics, and the ego loves to blame
Mm-hmm.
everyone else, but the spirit wants to take responsibility and become wise and look at, why are these things happening and what can I do about it? if you
Mm-hmm.
if you don't want to lose your wife of 23 years or whatever, that's one example.
Yep.
You really have to actually look, because you stare at the carpet, she stares at the carpet. Good morning, honey, your coffee's on the
Yeah.
table. I mean, there's nothing there, right?
Yeah.
I think relationships is a direction that I might even end up going. I don't even know,
Yeah.
but I just, not that I could, it's like, well, how was
Well,
your relationship? Well, I mean,
yeah, but there's so much wisdom in that though, and experience, right? Like firsthand experience of dealing with these things and learning and taking accountability, like you said, and then looking within to really you're not projecting onto anybody else. You're actually looking within yourself and asking the questions. And that provides so much wisdom to others, because most of us do project all of our unresolved crap onto our partners, our friends, anybody else. We just don't want to take responsibility. We're by nature kind of pain avoiders, right?
the whole society,
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
government's fault.
Yeah,
And yeah, the government sucks, but when was that not the case? You know what I mean? When did those types of people not end up in positions of control?
exactly.
Never say power, because as a human being, you are the one with power. And if you have courage, that's a lot more power. And if you have
Yeah.
faith, that's even more.
Yeah.
And if you have love, then you really have a lot of power. And if you have peace, you are power.
Right.
And you are the changer of the world. And this isn't like I have a really, really, really good life because I have like a default thing that happened. I'm very grateful. Like we all have our issues, but I
Yep.
have this sort of default thing that's like, hey, man, just look for the best wherever
Yeah.
you are. There's an orange juice machine. Yeah, there's chemtrails and you can't breathe the air, but hey, at least there's orange juice and there's
Right.
some oxygen in there, and that'll keep dissolving the mucus that's formed from the inflammatory crap in the
Yeah.
sky, and so you just pick the one or two or five good things and turn those into paradise.
Yeah.
There's a little patch of grass this big in a parking lot, and you stand there and you do your earthing.
Yeah.
And that earthing, is what allows the blood cells and the electrical current to move through you. And then the blood cells get
Yeah.
unclumped. And so it's all the people with the separation from the nature. I know that's a huge tangent, but what we were talking
No.
about was just responsibility for our
Yes.
own thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
what we focus on. And I
Yep.
know this is the age of distraction. And I'm telling you right now, I have not mastered this, but every day it's like, put the phone down. Who
Mm.
cares what other people think? No offense to anyone watching these videos. Hey, Dan, I love you. Leave a comment.
Yep.
But it's like negative, positive. Who wants all that? It's too much. And so the
Yeah.
best days are when you put the phone down and you just go out into nature as much
Yeah.
as you can and you shut off the flow of information. Now, sometimes videos like this might come at the right time. Don't get me wrong. I still
Yep.
absorb a lot of great information, but it's sometimes you can also get sucked over into a vortex where you spend like an hour or two like off on some tangent
Yeah.
scrolling through Facebook
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're trying to not see the girls in their bikinis anymore,
Yep.
and you want to get that stuff out of your head as a man who's trying to get more purified, and so you can get sucked into just
Absolutely.
vortexes. So you
Yep.
have to be very diligent, not just with the social media, but with everything everywhere of where you're putting your attention. And I am talking to myself here, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting this much better every day just through sheer awareness of
Awareness.
this is a waste of time. You've got to stay on track. If you're going to be scrolling through the phone, you might as well be meditating and actually, procuring some benefits. So the spirit grows as the Kundalini rises, and then who knows what's going to trigger your Kundalini awakening. It comes in stages, and
Yep.
then later on, as it matures and you stop leaking energy in all the various forms, it will
Mm-hmm.
begin to be more concentrated. It is a sexual life force energy that, if directed properly, can be utilized for evolution. And if you listen to it and allow it to speak to you as it's kind of moving
Mm-hmm.
through your chakras, if you will, I don't,
Yep.
I mean, there's only one, but we
Yeah. Yeah.
have all these linear, kind of concepts that we use terminology to give
Yeah.
people visual pictures of the flow of the one, through a human experience to cleanse and purify and awaken the whole system to power, love and peace,
Yes.
and so that's what I'm just trying to help myself, and then I'll try to help others as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, just the awareness piece and self-inquiry always, right? For everything, because we've all been kind of indoctrinated into this, even with social media, the scrolling, all of it, it's kind of been an insidious thing over time, but it's going to require a deep awareness, insight, and like I said, self-inquiry. And maybe that's minute to minute, initially, because it has become such an addiction for so many people.
Guilty,
Yeah. Yeah, for
for sure.
sure. Yeah, me
um
too.
didn't even see it coming, and
Yeah, right.
also at the same time it's like, with that thing right there, I make an incredibly good income
Right.
to buy pineapples and pay for this little box.
Yep.
And so at the same time, I'm grateful for it. It's just a matter of self-responsibility, which has gotten
Yes.
to a much higher level because there's so much more input, so much more data, so many more things to distract us from what really ultimately was throughout history. If we were to seek higher consciousness or better results or a better experience on earth, we would have found that within us.
Right.
All happiness, all joy comes from the self. And there's a couple of different definitions of the small self, the
Yep.
me, and then the big self, which is the eye of the I, if you will, the
Right.
prior to the I am, and
Mm-hmm.
what is the source of pure being,
Right.
that is the substratum, which is like a silent void, if
Mm-hmm.
you will,
Yeah.
which contains the all. But I know that's a lot of fancy sounding
No, I love
spiritual
that.
stuff, but
It's perfect.
that's what helps me is to continually move inwards towards that void where there are no problems,
Right.
where there are no desires and there are no fears, because it's either the irritation of desire. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really, it's like I want to get something, I want to be somebody, I want more
Yeah.
money, I want a pretty girl. It actually, if you sit and look at what that does to your peace, what ambition does, what wanting and desire does to your spirit, if you become very aware again and
Yeah.
introspective, the wanting, it's like a vacuum on your heart.
Yeah.
And then you have the fear, which is this
Yeah.
resistance. So you're either clinging or you're resisting,
Yeah.
and then we never find peace. And it's
Yeah.
like, I have been through enough crap in this life to want peace.
Peace.
And if I can be that, and it's like, okay, and then it's like, well, then what are you going to do? You won't have a career. You'll just be sitting there. I'll be like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that peace, sitting there being a nobody, is becoming more and more like, wow, that would be such a relief. Because although my career on the internet is kind of cool right now, I'm just mellow. It's like, here's the same damn
Yeah.
juice over and over again because big tech's got me here, the
Yeah.
audience, the niche market, it's got me here. But I'm really trying to slip into the videos some
Yeah.
of these more useful concepts, driving them back to being able to solve their own problems,
Back to self.
back to where there are no problems, back
Mm-hmm.
to the source where it's just pure life and it's
Yep.
pure joy and it's pure being, and there's no desires or fears. And so then it's just a wholeness and a completeness. And then out of that, as we cultivate that relationship through the various means, I think meditation is a really, really great one, just because that's what I've been blessed with.
Yeah.
And also just inner contemplation throughout the day, just an awareness of, okay, I'm scrolling on the phone or
Mm-hmm.
distracting myself, or I'm eating this thing and I'm not even hungry, all this other stuff. That's what's been a huge thing for me lately is like, bro, you're not even hungry. It's just a
Yeah.
habit. And it's kind of becoming a bit of an irritation in a way.
That's what I was just going to ask you about.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
and so thankfully I eat the best food, but as you're evolving and wanting to be more streamlined, more
Yep.
efficient, more masterful, and you've done a lot of fasting and live foods and awareness, a lot of the teachers, of course, are going to teach you to use foods, just
Yep.
suppress your feelings and stuff. So eat a lot of big, heavy foods, energy obstructors, and don't feel your stuff and
Yep.
don't grow and don't evolve.
Right.
But I'm more of like a child of the light. That doesn't mean that they're wrong. If you just
Mm-hmm.
eat nothing but protein all day and you never feel your feelings and you don't have any evolution, the protein is better than the Bill Gates food for sure.
Yeah.
But then when you do things like the living foods, which is the law of life, that's going to be a certain level of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, But if you're still trying to suppress your feelings and stuff and using food, you're going to be more on the gourmet side, making the
Yeah.
big wraps. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with eating. There's nothing wrong with anything.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, the Essenes inspired me,
Yeah.
the great ones, and they lived in harmony, but they were also very rare. They were the tiny little one, and then the Pharisees and the Sadducees only eat the animals without the hooves or whatever. I don't even know what the deal
Yeah.
is, but
Right.
don't eat pig and all that. So, but eat all this other stuff. And so the Pharisees and the Sadducees are the big groups of the normal masses of humanity that are like, well, the law is
Yeah.
inconvenient.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean go around and tell everybody how lame they are and how wrong they are and how good you are because you live according to the law or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to have humility too in the fact that you had a hell of a journey getting to this
Yep.
place. Humanity probably wouldn't even be here without meat for the vegans, and for the carnivores, we probably wouldn't be here without fruits, vegetables,
Right.
nuts either. So we're all
Exactly.
here now, and we can start making better decisions on whatever we want to align with. But when I look out into nature, all living organisms eat other raw living organisms to survive. And when we started turning food into this art, that's when we turned medicine into an art and healing into an art. If you lived according to the law, you would never get sick.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And I mean, all of that stuff just breeds again. It's food addiction. And what you're talking about, the numbing out, I think the buzzword really now is let's get satiated, the satiety of foods to hold you through, the longer the better. And I've heard you say before, which I love, the spirit likes very little food. The spirit likes almost nothing. It's the ego self that desires this intake of all of these different foods and tastes and sugar and salt and all of these kinds of things. So it's kind of just getting away from that to become more in touch with ourselves. And, less is more depending on what road you want to go down. But I kind of wanted to just really set the stage because I want to talk about cleansing, juicing, water fasting, these products for the purpose of removing waste in the body. But to set the stage with, I think what we're both saying here is that there's going to be some things come up through, emotional things that are going to come up that really have to be looked at. And all the cleansing in the world, if you've got to have an open mind and an open heart to be able to work through that before you start. You don't have to, but I feel like on the other side of that will be the real transformation, if that makes sense.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all one, though.
Mm-hmm.
And so to finish that last segment, there is no amount of food that can satiate a hungry spirit.
Yeah.
And our spirits are hungry, and it's in everyone.
Mm-hmm.
All back. It's in every bug, every bird, every bee. In fact, the animals have never left it. It was
Right.
only the humans who left the shade. And now we're trying so hard to get back to oursels, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
so, how hard is it to be yourself? For humans, very
Yeah.
difficult
Very hard for
because
most
the
people.
conditioning but yet imagine, is there any way we could possibly just get back to being ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the peace, that's where the joy, that's where the ease, the comfort, the authenticity, so that there's regularity. So that you have one mask for this group, and then you have another mask for this group. After a while, the masks are going to start to get a little scrambled.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Um, yeah, well, authenticity is the new currency, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and it's obviously on videos like this, it's going to be easier said than done.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. But that's what this is serves as a guide to bring awareness for those who don't have it. And also to just one other piece on that. Oftentimes we're not aware of it. These things are subconscious and it sometimes takes maybe sitting in a meditation practice, again, coming back to the self-inquiry because It's not sometimes in our conscious awareness that we're doing these things or that we're reacting or projecting the way that we do. And so we have to think, well, it's underneath some deeper layers there, and it requires some excavating. And that's a discipline.
100%. It takes a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's unreal how unconscious I've
Yeah.
been. It's
Well,
unreal
all of
how
us.
unconscious. The iceberg below the water, they're like, it's 90%. I'm like, it's like 99.9%, bro.
Yeah.
And the tip is just nothing. And so that's where that self-honesty comes in
Yeah,
a
for sure.
major way.
How does
And I
it feel? How does it feel for you now, like looking back, maybe say 3 to 5 years ago, and now moving into this version of yourself that is much more, like you've said, much more vulnerable, raw, honest? How does that feel? That was the piece where I was thinking, yeah, there could be some irritation maybe with that because you're probably always thinking about everything. Whereas
frozen.
before, there would maybe a part of that would be I'm just kind of going through the motions and I'm not thinking about things as much as now that I'm committed to this, that I have to think about these things all the time.
Well, you cut out a minute there, and I missed it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just saying how, like, now, because you're showing up in this way of kind of raw truth, vulnerability, honesty with yourself and with others, as opposed to, like you said, the older version of Dan who showed up in a different way that was maybe more appeasing to others, people pleasing, and that kind of, for whatever the reasons were, that maybe the irritation piece that we just kind of touched on, is that because of the constant self-inquiry, the constant looking at what you're doing and the choices that you're making, in a sense where it's never ending, it feels like?
Well, what happens is it's exhausting,
Right.
and it's impossible
hmm
to find what you're looking for outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And it is unconscious. You want mommy and daddy's love. That's
Right.
what's going on here. So you want mommy and daddy's love. So you want everyone's love on the internet. You want love from outside yourself and your partnerships. Maybe you're even more demanding with it or whatever. And then you realize that the whole world is simply reflecting. So the haters are just you,
Right.
that is you
hmm
from within. And when you get, they're gone now, or they're either gone. Well, all the haters I get now are from the bot farms. It's so obvious. Like
Yeah.
615 HPQTF
Yeah.
ZZYNO is
Yeah.
there, right? That's there. Sure. You go over there, they have one video of like a cat.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, bot farm, there's no real haters left anymore. And you're
Right.
like, okay. And so that's kind of cool. And if there are people on there, yeah, you become more compassionate with yourself. And then you get this nutrition guy, and he's like, you don't know anything about human nutrition. And then you go there and you see he's got big piles of diarrhea,
Yeah.
and he's like,
hmm
and I'm just, okay, I mean, you just, there's no, it doesn't, as you work it out in yourself, there's nowhere for them to put the hook, and,
Right.
and you have this instant understanding. You go there. I mean, yeah, so sometimes I still do that. I go look at their page, and instead of responding, and you go, oh, okay, this guy, he's a
Yeah.
pothead, he eats big plates of diarrhea, and on his thing, I'm a nutritional clinical
Yeah.
nutritionist.
Yeah.
Okay, and in other words, you're like everyone else on planet Earth. You have no clue, just
Yeah.
like everyone else. And once you realize you are clueless, now you're starting to display
Yeah.
the beginnings of wisdom.
Yes.
Is the I know nothing. That's the
Yeah.
start. And until you get there, you and your concepts you're imprisoned. You have
Yeah.
to defend them. You have to tout them. You have to cram them down everyone's throat to justify and rationalize so that you can feel good about yourself that you're
Yeah.
doing it right or whatever. And we all have to kind of have our, like, what's my purpose? I was in the shower and it was just like turn the Elite Video Club into a church,
Mm.
and talk about the way that the Essenes used to do it. So I don't
Yeah.
know, like something is definitely happening to me.
Yeah.
And it has to do with definitely the Kundalini, for lack
Mm-hmm.
of a better way to say it, the life energy, if that's not your thing, just life force,
Yeah.
the sex energy, the creative energy, the divine flow, whatever you want to call it, and the sexual continence.
Mm-hmm.
For many years, I should tell the young men about that. People are amazed. They're like, "You've had one orgasm a year for the last 5 years?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's one too many, but it's on a special occasion with my special person."
Right.
you know and so that is sexual continence, but then there is celibacy, and then there is brahmacharya. So there's the various levels of it. Then there's the ultimate brahmacharya, which is all for God.
Right.
And I'm not concretely adhering to any particular subset of that. It's more of a very you know a what's the best word? Just a very conscious approach
Mm-hmm.
to the fluid of life. And
Yeah.
then not just that, not just the fluid itself, but also the ramifications of what that means physiologically,
Yeah.
but also energetically, and then looking at those aspects energetically, as far as like the girls on Facebook, like even up to a year ago, I'd get sucked in and
Yeah.
check out this chick. Who is this? And it's just like, and you just don't. And the more you cut all that crap off and any other external leaking
Mm-hmm.
towards the opposite sex, and you hold that in, the energy begins to really expand, and it starts pushing everything up that needs to be dealt with,
Yeah.
transforming the mind. And you're not able to get away with the things that you were able to before. You begin changing, transforming, and then this kind of God consciousness commitment begins to really overtake you.
Yeah.
And all you do is kind of witness all of your weaknesses throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day and all the things you want to change. And then the next day you get up and do things differently. And you
Right.
make a little tiny bit of progress every day by simply observing, oh, you're sitting here eating a whole bunch of food and you're not even hungry. And it'd be better if you just meditated. Then the next day you don't eat big piles of mixed up stuff and you just eat one thing. Then you do yoga and meditate, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, that feels so much better than this old habit that comes from like the pothead days, when you
Yeah.
smoke weed and you eat one meal and it's this huge giant thing, and you watch your favorite movie Half Baked again with your brother while taking bong hits.
Yeah.
And then you have this thing in the nighttime where you have your big thing, and there's so many other reasons why people have their big meal at night. And then if we can displace that with some other habit, but to fill our lives up with, the habits that are beneficial. So some people are going to be like, I want to be a millionaire, so I got to have a structure.
Yeah.
And then other people are more like, I'm a spiritual person that wants to have evolution of consciousness. And then they get the structure, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, nobody wastes more time than me. And so I'm really seeing that, like, I could really become efficient. What's interesting with me is like, I don't really want to become a millionaire. I don't know why, but
Mm.
the freedom that I have to pursue things like walking on the earth barefoot,
Mm-hmm.
laying in the sun naked, doing the communions, drinking the pure water, harvesting the wild, fresh, living foods, and having time to just be with this process instead of like
Mm-hmm.
having all these phone calls to make.
Yeah.
And, it just depends on what you want to do. But basically, I'm just saying that it's obvious how much time we waste,
Mm-hmm.
and so we can't really blame anyone when people like, all you do is sell crap and I'm broke. And it's like, well, why not then get unbroke?
Yeah.
Well, I
Right.
can't. It's the
Take
government.
responsibility.
Right. It's just, we are where we have chosen to be.
Yeah.
And I've had to accept that too, because society says, get $1 million, get a house, be somebody, get cars, get
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, what I've learned very recently is it's like, I don't
But
want all that, because I
mm,
have something that most people don't. if I could tell my landlord today, and this is what I like. I could tell my landlord, hey, I need to move out today. I need to hop on a plane to go to Thailand. And
Right.
I could move out of here in about 4 hours and have everything in a storage unit. My backpack is right there with my passport in it. Toss in a bunch of Puradyme stuff, throw in a couple shirts and some
Yeah.
shorts, and be on a plane tonight and go anywhere in the world I want.
Yeah. I
Now
mean, that's probably
that
why you're resistant to the idea of having, $1 million or whatever that looks like, because, often a lot of money comes with a lot of consequences. And I feel like it's probably, your soul saying you don't want to start buying into the consumerism and all of those things that start coming when you get more money. It just, I think you just kind of naturally get into the cycle of wanting more, where you're in a place now of wanting less. So it's in complete opposition of what you truly want. So
more freedom.
more freedom. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm willing to change. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I get married, which I never really thought of until just recently. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that would really help me as a man, to
Mm-hmm.
find my queen and get married. And then I would, of course, then I would change up, and I'm willing to do whatever. But at this point, so I'm not saying I'm attached to that either. It's just
Right.
that that is another type of abundance, is that abundance of freedom
Mm-hmm.
to, and anyone can manage their life in that way. I do consulting every day, and it's a matter of it's our colon. I
Right.
mean, the dirtier and
Mm.
more clogged up your colon, the dirtier and more clogged up is your brain, the
Yes.
dirtier and more clogged up is your life, and more likely the dirtier and more clogged up is your heart. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that that's an absolute truth in any way,
Mm-hmm.
shape, or form. Some people have a really pure heart and a really dirty colon and a really dirty mind. But I
Right.
mean, but some people also, they it appears they have a pure heart, but they're actually selling themselves out. So they're loving everyone else except themselves. And that's why
Yeah.
a lot of times the women will get breast cancer and things like that.
Sure.
So I got to work with these people and myself. Like, if you want the true medicine, learn to truly love and accept yourself
Mm-hmm.
the way you are with all your flaws, because we all have them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have them. I mean, I'm afraid of wrinkles and stuff like that, and I got to get over it, because guess
Yep.
what? It's going to happen. My
Yep.
teeth aren't straight. They're yellow, whatever. I mean, how long am I going to let that debilitate me? And believe me, for years, I've been debilitated. I still don't like cameras this close to my face,
Mm-hmm.
but I do it anyways, because it's like, man up. And a lot of men do not have that. That's like a feminine trait in our society. But then I didn't have that. Well, no, I always did. I always I had this thing from my mom about being ugly. But even when I was young, 25 years old, in the prime of my whatever, and so it's just a program, and
Yep.
everyone's got different programs. And some men, they're just like, I'm a man, I don't give a F.
Yeah.
And then when I got on the social media, it even got worse, because my whole life was approval. And
Right.
now what I'm learning, here I am, 49 years young, learning to approve of myself, even though, hey, you piggy, you just pigged out for no
Yeah.
reason at all. You weren't even hungry. And just like, okay, cool, whatever. Lesson learned. Check.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we do better.
Tomorrow's a new day.
Tomorrow we do better. And you just keep learning and learning. So you can let your mistakes spin you out. Like when we were younger, didn't one mistake spin us out for months?
Oh yeah, totally.
And now, as we're more mature, we're like, okay, we've been
Like,
here
who
before,
cares?
done this
Yeah.
again. No big deal. It's not spin out. I'm a fat pig. I'm going
Yeah.
to sleep. I'll take a colonic tomorrow and go for a long walk. And I'll wait until like dinner time to eat, or I'll do a water fast or a juice fast, and I'll reset the button,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take that much.
And
Your
you also,
automatic
yeah. And
life's
you
going to
also,
go on, you
yeah,
know.
exactly. Because you've been through it enough times that you know that tomorrow will come. Tomorrow is a new day. And what happened yesterday is actually not that big of a freaking deal. But, when you're younger, you just get so caught up in like everything's kind of dramatic, right? And I feel like as we get older, we can kind of release that, and just kind of have that more of a allowing state, rather than trying to control or micromanage everything, and realize we're all dented cans, right? We are all dented cans.
I had a consult this morning with a beautiful young lady who was an
Yep.
absolute control freak,
Yeah.
absolutely stuck in her head like I've never dealt with in 14 years of consulting.
Wow.
But what was cool was by the end of the consult, she was calm, and the reason is because she reminded me of me.
Mm.
And I need to remember to just don't go there. I do that all the time with my friends and stuff. Like if I've got issues, which I'm moving through a lot of stuff, I call my friends and I'm digga, 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 digga. And my friend Summer is like, okay, hold on, take a breath. And she keeps training me like that because she's
Yeah.
really, really calm. In fact, whenever she does any massage on me or talks to me, like I'll like fall asleep because
Yeah. She has that
she's like the
energy.
opposite of me. But that's why
Hmm.
Dan is like, drink your vegetables, and
Yep.
and she's like, so we kind of make a good team and balance each other out in certain ways. So she loves what I do. She's the one that lost the 15 pounds
Wow.
on Puradyme, and she got rid of a cyst, and she got rid of the debilitating PMS. And I just put that video up today. And so we all help each other
Yes.
staying balanced. And I share my gifts and my little protocol. And she kind of put it off for years because she just didn't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then when she finally decided there was a reason, because there's like a dude. So
Yep.
she's like, okay, I'm gonna face, because the ego and the fear, it doesn't want to deal with it. It's like, okay, I'm like, whatever, I'm 20, 50 pounds overweight, and I know that I'm gonna have to deal with the emotions and the fears. So just one more pizza and then we'll
Yeah.
start tomorrow. But that goes on for years. And then you're 290 pounds and your doctor says you have diabetes and you're going to be 6 foot under and within the next couple of years, and we're going to cut your feet off.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be enough, hopefully. But at any point, no matter how desperate you've gotten, you can turn it around.
Yeah. You can
And
always turn it
you
around.
can always say, well, Dan, you've always been skinny or this, that, and the other. Believe me, I've had my problems. You got yours. We got ours.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where we are because it's pure consciousness. And
Hmm.
everyone has access to the consciousness of 180 or to the consciousness of anyone can surrender at
Yeah.
any time, anything and everything. And they'll be like, no, Dan, my specific thing is a lot harder. I can't just surrender this. It's like, no, you're milking it. You're juicing
Yeah.
it. You actually, a part of you loves to
Yeah.
suffer.
We're addicted to our stories. We're attached. We have an attachment to who, like, the definition of who we are. Part of that is where we came from and the stories and all of the traumas that are attached to that. It's what makes us it's not who we are, but it's who we've identified as for our whole entire life. So now when you're, 45, 50, 60 and trying to like upheave that stuff, it feels like, 1,000 pounds on your chest, but it's necessary. It's like you have to go through it to be able to get to the other side, or you don't, and you don't get to,
You die
transform.
on 8 pharmaceutical
Yeah,
drugs, 50
exactly.
pounds overweight, gasping for breath.
And that's one thing, my friend Troy Casey, in his book, he talks about legacy as being the number one, that's like the number one pillar, because how do you want your legacy? What is your legacy when you've passed? Do you want it to be that you've been on your deathbed on 10 medications and depressed and all of these things? Or do you want to feel like you've contributed, you've evolved through your traumas, you've looked at yourself and you feel, you've cultivated self-love? So many people, I think, they lay on their deathbed and they're just full of like self-hate and all of these emotions that keep them stuck. So, and one other little thing I just wanted to say, because we were talking about ego, a little acronym that I like, and I don't know if you've heard of this before, but for ego, it's edging God out. And so whenever we're in our ego, just think of it like, we're edging God out. And that's kind of like another little piece to be aware of, where if we can get through that and back to the God self,
Mm.
then we can make some change in that space.
Surrendering to God.
Surrender. Yeah.
Sometimes
Surrender.
you have to. You get to the point where that's all
Yeah.
you've got. You
Yeah.
can't. There's things that are out of your control,
Yeah.
and
And the devotion piece.
things that you want. You
Yeah.
want to be healthy. You want your relationship to work out. You want that job, you know,
Yeah.
and you don't know why it's not coming. But patience and
Trust.
trust,
Mm.
faith, there is magic. I don't really rely too much on the whole law of attraction type
No.
stuff.
Yep.
There is a place for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, there is the spiritual law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
which is pure power, and then there's more of the ego law of attraction.
Right.
And I'm not saying that either one is bad or good. You're just going to be everyone's going to be in a different stratosphere
Yes.
of what they came here to do
Mm-hmm.
for their legacy. So yeah, like to surrender
Surrender. I love the word
is
surrender.
easier said
Ah,
than done, to surrender at
absolutely.
depth. But sometimes if you don't, you will die. You will be
Yep.
killing yourself. In fact, in a certain way, anytime we're not surrendered, we are, a part of us is dying.
Yes.
Because the biggest true self is pure faith, is
Yes.
pure being.
Yeah.
And
Because
so,
don't you feel like if you're not surrendering, you are in resistance to a certain degree if you're not in surrender,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I'm sure there are varying degrees
Sure,
of
of course. Yeah.
clinging.
Mhm.
Most of it probably happening unconsciously. And that's why
Mhm.
we're trying to be honest. That's why meditation, self reflection,
Yep.
in solitude, whether that's for 10 minutes in the morning when you get up before your wife gets up to make coffee, or just any moment you have to spare
Yep.
for the inner inquiry, is a moment to take to turn it inward and to seek for that source energy
Yeah.
of wholeness, the wholeness within you prior to the duality.
Totally. And I think paying attention, at least for if this is something new, paying attention to your inner dialogue, what you're telling yourself, what your, how do you talk to yourself? Is it, you know, are you always in self-criticism? Is there any room for self-love just in affirmations? I mean, making room for that, even if it's something as simple as, everything's always working out for my greater good. My world takes care of me. Everything's whatever that happens to be, because within that, when you start talking like that and just saying small affirmations, you can't have the other at the same time. So if you keep doing that enough, you will start to believe it, which again, that can be a great kind of catalyst for moving into changing the thoughts, you know?
Which is important
Mm.
because there is a kind of a continuum. First, you want to come out of the darkness. I'm a
Mhm.
fat pig. I hate myself. I'm going to
Right.
kill myself.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, try not to project those
Yeah.
thoughts. They
Right.
might start coming true. So first you go from the negative thoughts to the positive thoughts, or the
Right.
negative habits to the positive habits.
Right.
Eventually, as consciousness evolves, you're even going to want to relinquish the positive self statements as
Right.
well. So there's a continuum, and then
Hmm.
to get like to the top of the mountain, it's almost silence,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's
Sure.
silent peace, and it's
Mhm.
infinite power instead of more power, more positive power. Like the negativity will just shut down the electromagnetic energy through your body.
Right.
Acupuncture meridian system. I'm a fat pig. I hate myself.
Hmm.
It'll just, I mean, there's
Yeah.
no life force flowing
There's
through
nothing
that.
coming out of that. Yeah.
That's just death. And that's
Hmm.
just rip the other guy off, lie, rape, cheat, steal, live in fear, hate everyone, blame everyone, take everyone you can for anything you can get.
Yep.
But then there's another line, and then that's where the power begins, is when you can just take the courage to be honest
Mm-hmm.
and to start leaving that negativity behind, where you're just collapsing your own life potential with your own thoughts. Now, there are going to be millions, billions of souls trapped in that for forever. That's why the world has its negative energy. But as you evolve, as you go up the scale, you get more and more powerful.
Yeah.
And so then eventually, so you want to get rid of the negative concepts, but then do you want to cling to the positive ones? No, because there aren't any. You see?
Yeah.
The concepts, and so you have to give a lot of room there for everyone to come from the negative, cultivate the positive thinking and the positive mantras, but then eventually evolution of consciousness will be asking you to relinquish even those and just to be pure awareness,
Right.
just an observer, neutral observer, because within the human body, the human or the laws of nature, there is that duality. There always will be, and nobody is going to make it out of here. Every
Right.
one of us is going to lose this body that we have.
Right.
All the thoughts that go with it, all the negative concepts and the positive concepts will be gone one day. But the real you was never born
Yeah.
and can never die. So,
Yeah.
can you have fun as a human being? Hell yeah, you can. Can you do great things? Yes, you can. Can you do
Mm-hmm.
super negative things? Yes, you can. But you can never really escape the duality of being human. And so what you want to do to avoid the resistance or the clinging
Yeah.
is to find the true self and to be more of a witness of the phenomenon that are occurring. And who knows, the old question, which still a question, I might die with this question: free will or destiny?
Right.
I mean, are
Yeah.
you doing it? Is it all preordained? I
Yeah.
mean, where you could, and I'm not going to have debates
Yeah.
about that, and I'm not going to argue, because some people are going to be like, it's free will.
Yeah.
And there is some free will in there, but then there's also destiny. But then also at the same time, there's probably a level of consciousness where that conundrum becomes ridiculous. And so
Yeah.
I think that the highest truth is just the best, way to, that's like the best foundation to have. Like, if there's anything in doubt, go for the highest truth.
Right.
And then go for that anyways, and let everything else work itself out, and allow for the consciousness to just become more and more devoted,
Mm-hmm.
because devotion is something that
Yeah.
we can cultivate, but it also does have its, obviously, in my own experience, it has its life of its own. It's going to
Yes.
come, and it's going to be through just life itself. What decisions you make based on what comes your way. Do
Right.
you get jaded, or do you say, okay, I'm going to be a witness to this. I'm going to become aware of this. I want to become aware of what's going on below the iceberg. So I'm going to watch this eating habit. I'm going to watch this thing that I have with my wife. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do we fight every Friday? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Right.
Or why do people have heart attacks on Mondays more than ever before? Like, oh, I got to go back to work.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on in the unconscious? We can either decide to blame the world and stay asleep,
Yeah.
or we can take responsibility and see what we can learn from it, and take responsibility for
Yeah.
what is showing up in our lives. And then, some things we're not going to be able to fix, and some things we can.
Yeah, exactly. And just, that can be taking the time to figure out what that is, and just like you said, I mean, really the non-attachment piece is ultimately that piece of not feeling attached to really anything is, I think, a feeling of freedom within that. Of then again, this is all easier said than done. This takes like patience, practice, all of these things, but it's the attachment sometimes to outcome that
Yeah.
gives us a lot of instability and a feeling of sometimes like not even that feeling of being not in control. And a lot of us are control freaks. We want to control, we want to micromanage our own life, we want to micromanage everyone else's life. And so if you can try to develop and cultivate the skills of non-attachment, I feel like that kind of can give you or put you on the road to feeling a more peace, that what we originally started talking about within the self.
That's the story of my life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally.
That's what
So
I'm
now
dealing with.
so this you touched on it a little bit about the colon. Yeah. And so, I feel like we've taken the time, we've kind of established the kind of what's really going on, because like I'm a big, I like living foods, juicing, all of this. It's like absolutely like top of the pyramid. But I think we've kind of set the stage for like the deeper things that are underneath the nutrition aspect of those spokes that you talk about. One being your spiritual practice, your ability to move through and transcend some emotional traumas, woundings, all of these things as being like the foundation. Once you can start moving into that, and now we step into the juicing and doing the Puradyme, I mean, the results are going to be just, I feel like, exponential, as opposed to just looking after the nutrition aspect of it. And you said a little bit about the colon, touching on that. And, I think that severe constipation and so many, it's estimated right now that over 5 million people in the US alone are constipated chronically, which is a huge number. And that
You mean every single person on
yeah,
earth?
pretty much every single person, right? And so these are just the people that are showing up at the doctor's office and like statistically speaking, but the reality is everybody. And that the constipation is what can also lead us into some disturbing kind of dysfunctional emotional behavior because of that. And we're unaware of it. We have no idea. And so I thought it might be a good idea to start there with the juicing and the water fasting, if we want to talk about that as well as the Puradyme products. And really also to establishing that longevity in its, we can talk about longevity and health span versus lifespan and what that means. And also that metabolic problems and the inability to detox is often what gets us in the end. It's our bodies aren't efficient at getting rid of waste. And so we can have a lifetime of accumulation. And so I thought that might be a good place to start with the constipation piece and our bowels and how to get those moving for the holistic piece of it within our bodies, because it affects everything. It's not just that, oh, we feel like crap because we're not going to the bathroom. This is going to be like, affecting our emotional well-being, our spiritual well-being, how we interact with others, the choices that we're making. So why don't we start there?
Well, physiologically, everyone thinks that constipation is only in the colon,
Right.
but we also have constipated blood vessels, microvessels
Mm-hmm.
as well as the lymphatic system, and even congestion, again, in the acupuncture meridian system where the synapses for the neurons are sluggish.
Right.
So um, so you could even say that the nervous system gets constipated.
Right. Sure.
And so, of course, it does start physiologically in the colon
Mm-hmm.
with the modern dietary, which is atrocious, but humanity's kind of been off track for quite a while, I imagine,
Yep.
with bread and whatnot, baked in the oven, cooked food, as a matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact. So we have two different pathways. One is from the bottom up, which was my pathway. If we are interested in truth, we can go from the bottom up. In other words, we can go from the body to the mind, the emotions to the spirit.
Right. Okay.
Or you can also go from the spirit to the heart to the mind to the body. So if you purify from the top down in your spirit, eventually you'll be like aware that, oh, if I eat this, I feel terrible and can't meditate.
Right.
Or you can do what I did, which was like, oh, eat your way to spirituality or whatever, which did work for me. So, and what I recommend now is both,
Okay.
Purifying the body and the spirit, and then that will lead to illumination of the heart
Got you.
and the mind and the body
Mm-hmm.
and the spirit. So this is a path of purification. For a lot of people, they're just thinking in terms of weight loss and whatnot. I understand that for sure, but that's going to be limited. And if you set your bar really high, of course, you're going to be on a hell of an arduous journey excavating your inner constipation, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually constipated,
Yep.
And so you're wanting to alleviate the constipation so that you can experience the conductivity of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be,
Right.
as Gabriel Cousin termed it 20 years ago, a superconductor of divine energy.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us think, well, dude, just tell me I'm fat. I want to not be fat, and it's like, well, you have to set the bar a little higher. Do you want to see your potential arise? No, I'm fat. I want to be skinny. That's as far as they can go.
Yeah.
I want to encourage people to think further than that.
Yeah.
For their own potential of life. Like the gift of life has been given to you, the greatest thing that you can have in the universe. You're very rich. You're very blessed to have the gift of life itself. It's the rarest treasure of them all.
Yeah.
And you have this amazing body that you can play with and have fun with and experiment with and screw around with and use as a tool to awaken.
Right.
This body as a instrument, a measurement. How you doing today? Well, I feel like crap. Okay, so that means you might want to do some adjusting, or if you're like, I feel fantastic, ecstasy flowing up my spine and out my heart,
Yeah.
So my area of expertise is actually, the human colon and getting that cleaned up. And so that's why I put people here's like that. This is the most ideal example, like right here. Like now there's a lot of different herbs. Yeah. But this one is really, really good because it's gentle and it's super clean. What I love about Puradyme is the testing on the way in, formulating everything in the most pristine facility.
Right.
I mean, that's what the FDA said anyways. They said this should be the model for all other, formulating plants of all different types, because the way they do it is very clean. So, and then they test everything on the way out. And so it's actually better than organic. People like Puradyme's not organic, but if they had to pay for that, they'd have to charge more.
Yeah.
And organic only needs to be tested every 20th batch to be certified organic. You pay a certain amount to the government, and then they have to test every 20th batch to make sure that it passes. With Puradyme, every single batch get tested. So that's a really good thing there. It's pure, that the herbs are pure. And so this is just the cleanse.
Right.
And this has herbs in it, which softens up all of the waste matter and then bulks up and carries it out without it being a harsh laxative.
Right.
So yeah, you can do the oxy powders or these harsh laxatives and have a blowout and take 5 or 6 runny poops.
Yeah.
But this gently softens up the fecal matter, the plaque, black, green, brown, whatever, orange, yellow, slimy, hard and dehydrated, waste that's just turned into like cement.
Yeah.
Which inhibits absorption and utilization and also carries with it massive amounts of memories and energy as well. That's
Yeah.
why colonics, like I had a client that came and did a retreat, and we did like 5 colonics in 7 days, you know. And I finally found a colon hydrotherapist that was willing to do that, because they're all trained to like, oh, you can only have one a week or it'll
Yeah,
blow out,
right.
your colon will fall out. Well, she finally gets it. Like, no, the lady was like, oh, well, I recommend you come back tomorrow. And I said, oh, hell yeah, because most colon hydrotherapists won't do that. So I was like, yeah, yeah. And then my client, she's like, oh, she was just releasing
Wow.
massive, massive, massive amounts of stuff and emotions that went along with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's all there sitting in the colon from years of hardened cheeseburgers, from the cancellation of, I mean, the living foods, the pineapples, the bananas, the coconuts, avocados, even, they all just go right through. They feed, they nourish, they activate the blood, they stimulate, and then they're released. Put that on the fire and mix everything together, you get enzyme cancellation, and you end up getting massive amounts of constipation, biofilms. I've got another video coming
Yeah.
like tomorrow on biofilms. And the living food keeps the biofilms from forming because there's just too much oxygen and too much electricity for the microorganisms to begin to build those polysaccharide based,
Yeah, right.
biofilms. And there is mucoid plaque, mucus slime, and a lot of it can be most certainly attributed to the heating and the altering of the food through high
Right.
processing temperatures. The fats get altered, the carbohydrates get altered, and the proteins get altered. And then different subsets of microorganisms can then take over
Right.
that aren't as beneficial. So, whatever you eat, you feed those microorganisms, and all of the different types of microorganisms have different byproducts,
Yeah.
exudiants, I like to call them, but it's really just microbe poop,
Yep.
which microbe poop is actually different vitamins and different hormones and different steroids and consciousness, really.
Yeah.
So if you go to McDonald's and then you feel a little depressed,
Yeah.
you can very easily understand why that would be. Not only are the people working there depressed, the food is fractionated and depressed, it's
Yeah.
far removed from what it was originally. And then the microbes that are designed to break that kind of stuff down, plus the cancellation of the enzymes with the mixtures of the carbs, the proteins, and the fats. Monomeals clean you out, juices clean you out. The juices I like for the concentration and just the nourishment and the hydration, because
Right.
you got to hydrate the colon. And then also eating your fruit and vegetables whole is also extremely beneficial.
Right.
Most of the fruits and vegetables have high amounts of water in them, so you're getting the H3O, which is the most absorbable, hydrating, living, structured water that keeps your tissues hydrated in your body. But when you put that on the heat, you lose it.
Right. So, like somebody who is just, say, for example, they're going to start taking in living foods, maybe not 100%, but say 80%, who have chronic constipation, the length of time to start cleaning the colon out as opposed to taking the cleanse through Puradyme, doing the juicing, taking the Purazyme, that must be like, and even incorporating colonics, for example, the time that it's going to take by just using living foods to really start to get to those deeper levels of the mucoid plaque and the biofilms, that's going to be a lot longer, would you say?
As far as
Like to start removing this constipation out of the body, because sometimes people will just say, okay, well, I'm starting a living foods diet, I've got live foods now, that's enough, I'm going to start clearing myself. But what you just talked about, using the cleanse through Puradyme, using the colonics, using the juicing and the living foods, that's like an expedited way to really start moving that out of the body.
which is why I use it.
Yeah, because it's a timeline. People want things like yesterday. So in a sense, doing things, incorporating things that would give people more quicker results often allows, I feel, for better success, right? Because people they get impatient and it's not happening today. So I'm going to forget it. I guess I'll go back to eating, what I was
Right.
eating before I started on this thing in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, let's get it done kind of
Yeah.
dude.
Let's get it done.
But that being said, I'm also very patient and persistent.
Right.
So I have infinite patience, infinite persistence,
Mm-hmm.
forever, eternal persistence. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what else am I going to do
Yeah.
on this process of your potential?
Mm-hmm.
So it just popped into my head if anybody wants to get their potential, then they can join us for the juice cleanse, the summer
Right.
juice
Yeah.
cleanse.
And we're going to talk about that too.
Okay, join the Elite Video Club, and then we're
Yeah.
going to do that that starts in about a week,
Right.
and we're going to do a 7-day. We're going to do the Puradyme,
Yeah. And
7-day reboot
yeah,
juice
and
fast.
that's going to be a great place because someone who hasn't done that before, they have the support. They have the support, and oftentimes that's what's lacking. It's not enough to just go sometimes onto a YouTube video. You can get guidance, but to actually have your questions answered, which is what's amazing about the Elite Video Club, is that if you have questions, you can get them answered. You can hear your experiences, and it just creates a community where you feel like you're not the only one going through this.
No one ever asks any questions. It's weird. There's like 2 or 3
Yeah.
questions, 3-hour class. They just listen to me
Yeah.
and raving. But I just wanted to plug that because I want to give everyone
Yeah.
an opportunity to, it's been a long time since I've done anything like this, and I just had some requests from the Elite
Yeah.
Video Club members, and I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it, and then we'll plug it to the network and see who wants to join us
Yeah.
over there. And so your question was the acceleration of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, eternal persistence.
Right.
Like you want it in 3 weeks. Like people always ask me, how long does it take?
Yeah.
I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you in it to win it? Or
Yeah.
are you trying to, what I'm saying? Like, this is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
This is all day, every day for the rest of your life. You ain't never going to be done.
Yeah.
If you don't get on that track, you and me, you ain't going to get it.
Yeah.
You ain't never going to get it. Because this isn't like, let's do 3 weeks and then my problems will be gone. No, because they're just going to come right back.
Yeah. And also too, forgetting the fact that it took your entire life to get you to the place where you are. I mean, like to think that for 45 or 50 years, you've been eating and treating the body in a certain way. And then to do a 3-week juice cleanse, all of your issues are going to magically disappear is just like, that's not realistic.
The lifestyle. Do you love yourself? Do you
Yeah.
love the truth? Do you want to see your potential arise? Do you want to be a blessing to your community, to your family? Do you want to serve God? Or do you want some kind of quick fix ego trip? And then you're never going to, it doesn't mean it's diddly squat. It's nothing. It's not, I wouldn't even start.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't even bother.
That's the worst thing that anyone could ever say is don't even start. But, why punish yourself? Like some people are like, look, I'm going to eat pizza, smoke weed, jerk off, get fat, and die. And that's what I want to do. And you're like, cool, man, right on. I can totally dig it. They've already decided. You would be amazed at how many people are like, listen, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to feel these feelings. I don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
I just want to stay asleep in so many different ways, not always in those words, but I just want to stay asleep. I don't want to do this. I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. I've been in enough pain. And I understand they've already suffered enough. They've been abused and beaten. And it's like, they just want to just give them their pills.
Yeah.
Give them their clicker.
Numb out.
And their tuna sandwich and their coffee mate creamer.
Yep.
And they get gray. They get fat. They numb out. And they 67 or 72 years old. And then they just die.
Yeah.
Whatever. Cool. I have no problem with that either. I'm just here for the people that are more into, hey, let's see our potential arise from birth until death. Let's just keep honoring God, keep cultivating the communions with nature and with God. So we're tapping into the tree of life with the 7 roots into the ground and the 7 branches.
Yeah.
And we're the trunk. So we're reaching up for the higher powers. We're grounding down in with the laws of nature,
Yeah.
and we're trying to be the strongest, healthiest tree we can be that bears the most amount of delicious fruit for our self
Yeah.
and our family and our community and ultimately the world and ultimately the entire universe, even the aliens living on other planets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, another piece to that is the dehydration piece of, everyone's constipated, but everyone is also dehydrated, right? And the dehydration and the constipation, they just click in with each other just like that. So, through the juicing, through like part of this juice cleanse is going to be, I'm assuming, there's going to be a piece of learning about dehydration and starting to hydrate the body through using the juicing, right?
Yes.
And how to do that. And maybe that means taking in more than what we normally, because a lot of people just go through their day and they don't have a piece of fruit or a glass of water, you know?
Yeah, because we're as human beings, we're like 80+% water, and as we get older, we get less and less. Like when you're a little baby, you're just a ball of water.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, and mostly that has to do with the environment, but also the way that you eat,
Yeah.
which is when you cook the food, you cook out the water,
Yeah.
and it just dissipates. So the water that's supposed to go into you as a structured living water within whatever food that you're eating
Hmm.
is just being dissipated out. And that's true with animal products, vegetable products,
Yeah.
fruit
Right.
products, nut and seed products. I mean,
Hmm.
when you get a macadamia nut on the tree, it's like a water chestnut.
Hmm.
And then when you buy it at the store, it had to get
Yeah.
dehydrated so that it would come out of the shell and so that
Yeah.
it would store. So then you got to reconstitute that. And that's why I like to take the nuts and seeds and turn those into like yogurts or
Hmm.
blend them with some water. So you
Right.
soak those and you reconstitute them. Then they're back at that place where they're not pulling the water out of your body. The
Right.
cooked food is pulling water out of your body. And so that's why I just live off juice my whole life because all I'm
Hmm.
interested in is hydration and a
Yeah.
little bit of mental stimulation because if I water fast too much, I can't meditate
Yeah.
as well at all. And so basically, what we're doing is as we hydrate, we're just going to keep on hydrating the system, and it's eventually those hard massives of dehydrated accumulations all throughout the entire body, growth,
Yeah.
cysts, tumors, and mostly in the colon, that hardened fecal matter that is disrupting the absorption of nutrition. So
Yeah.
the more you eat, the hungrier you get. And it's only just a microbial
Yeah.
dysbiosis, cravings of parasites and different dysbiotic funguses that then create all these cravings. On the one hand, it's going to be like, I'm craving bacon, because
Yeah.
there's certain types of worms that and parasites that want that kind of thing. Then over here, you're like, I want white sugar, donuts,
Hmm.
and bread. And that's going to be
Yeah.
another type of fungal overgrowth. Not that those things are bad, they can be there in the overall human dietary.
Hmm.
I've got the live food philosophy because everything in nature is the living food. But not everyone wants to follow the law, but it would help them to understand what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're not going to turn the world into a bunch of, you know, raw food eaters, live food eaters. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Not right
Right.
now. At least they can get an idea of, okay, you're right. Every single living organism on this planet, from the smallest amoeba to the largest blue whale in the ocean, eats 100%
Yeah.
fresh, alive food. Then the human beings put it on the fire and turn it into this whole big mental trip.
Yeah.
And then it actually becomes it becomes a detriment and it puts them out of alignment with the law. And then that just cascades into all other areas of dysfunction and imbalance
Right.
in their lives. So the hydration piece is the key. If you don't learn anything from this video, like get hydrated. Now,
Get
me,
hydrated.
water is okay, I guess, but it's not really the water in the watermelon and the coconut and the cucumber and the celery and the apple and the orange and the banana is far superior.
Yeah.
And if you don't eat salt, which that's still a huge debate, whatever. But if you don't eat salt, then you won't need to drink as much of the water. And so I'm still working on doing some experiments in myself
Okay.
with water and all with juices and stuff. And my favorite water I drink I probably drink at least a half a gallon of coconut water a day,
Right.
and then another one or two of these. So I'll drink like a gallon of liquids a day, or even more, 1 to 2
Right.
gallons of liquid a day, and then have a meal at night. So I'm only interested in hydration, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
at this point. And there's enough meditation energy in any kind of hydration. So I'm not really in I have friends and stuff. You should really build up and build some muscle, and it'll be good for your career and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, that's all great, but right now my heart is
Yeah.
starving for God. And so I don't want to put too much emphasis on that. I've kind of mastered it. Like, I just don't get sick.
Right.
And I'm not going to say I don't get tired. I don't have any kind of exhaustion tiredness, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, maybe like if I do a super long hike or something, the next day I'll be a little more
Sure.
chilled for my legs to recuperate. But there's always a vital energy in there from the food and the
Mm-hmm.
sleep. So I have
But
this, it's like whole food, living food,
yeah.
exercise, and
Mm-hmm.
sleep.
Right.
And do we do those? Nobody exercises.
Yeah,
They're
I
like,
know.
what's your exercise? Well, I take a walk like a couple times a week. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I
I mean,
know.
we're
Yeah.
human beings that we've been walking 8, 10, 12 hours a day, schlepping stuff for millions of years. And now it's like, well, I'm going to
Yeah.
lay here on my phone, and then I'm going to go out and get some pizza, and then I'm going to have some pho for lunch. And then
Yeah.
you're
And
like,
just
okay,
have it dropped off to your door with Uber Eats. You don't even
that's
have
right.
to leave the house anymore, right? So
Eat all this food, and you're not going to go out and like vigorously,
move the
get
body.
move it, like
Yeah.
everything, do it all: yoga, cycling, hiking, everything. Go out and move and push yourself,
Yeah.
not over the edge. You don't have to be
No.
like David Goggins and run
Yeah.
100 miles, but you can just go push yourself, go
Yeah.
further the next time, and get your legs ripped and
Yeah,
get
I
your
mean, that's the stress we're looking for in the body, right? When we talk about stress, you want to create some stress through movement, so the body's challenged. And that's exactly, we're not meant to sit around and lay on the couch and pick up our phone and order a pizza to our door.
use it or lose it.
Use it or
And
lose
then
it.
get to bed,
Get to bed. Yeah.
go to sleep.
Prioritize your sleep too.
If you don't do anything else, well, if you learn one thing, one, get dehydrated, and two, quit this whole crap with like, I'm so spiritual, I don't need to sleep, because that's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. Or I'll
You need
sleep
to
when I'm dead.
recharge your battery. I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah.
You'll be have plenty of time to do that, and you're going to lose about 10 to 20 years off your lifespan.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I could give a crap less about longevity because that's not the goal of life.
Yeah.
But you know, why usher yourself out of here in misery any quicker than you need to? And if you don't sleep, you're done. And the
Tap in.
earlier you get to sleep, the better.
Yep.
Because I go to bed at like 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm up
Me
at
too.
3, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm already done with my workday by 9 a.m.
Yeah. Right.
I've done a consult. I've posted all my videos. I wrote a social media post, and I'm
And I
done.
feel like that's just like you're more in touch with nature in that sense. I mean, you're going to bed basically when the sun in and around when the sun goes down or shortly after, and you're up when it's coming up and the birds are starting to chirp, and it's just you're tapped into those natural cycles. And I feel like that just I mean, hopefully that happens more organically as you start to kind of incorporate more living foods and do more of the juicing, getting more hydrated. And I like what you just said too about a, I think a lot of people have a pressure now to like put on the muscle, get to the gym, eat more protein, get the bod, all of these things that all of that it's great and everything, but I think really if most people are honest with themselves, it's all coming from the ego self. But the place of wanting to move the body, get out to nature, do whatever it is, go to yoga for the purpose of keeping the body healthy, but not the over identification with the physical appearance. So that, yeah, if you're skinny or if you're slender or whatever, you're taking the time out to do your meditation practice and make that more of a priority than building the body up to something that it's not really naturally meant to be anyways, if that makes sense.
Well, all the young guys do that.
Yeah, of course.
And some of the ladies get stuck on it too, but
Yeah.
mostly the young dudes, they have the testosterone boost. They don't have a girlfriend. So their whole life becomes about muscle. And some of them get stuck there because men are like 60, 65 still hitting on women.
Yeah.
And they haven't figured it out yet. Like, do you, bro? And the right queen will come along.
Yeah.
Whatever. Don't get me wrong. I love the gym.
Yeah.
I do go in there. I do this thing called stretch and flex. I'll always go to the gym. It's amazing for you as you get for your bones and your joints. And so I recommend all forms of exercise. Anything you want to do, can do, want to do it. Yeah. Move your body in every different way. Yoga has an effect. Weightlifting has an effect. Cycling has an effect. Hiking has an effect. Gardening has an effect. Gardening is a great one because you're hitting many bases, and naked gardening is the best.
Yeah.
That's when you're really you're down there with the dirt.
Yep.
You're connecting to the earth. You're earthing. You're getting microbial activity. You're growing food. You're out there in the sun. Yeah. You're lifting stuff. I mean, so gardening is another great one.
Yep.
And so I love the gym, but yeah, I had that too. Like, I'm going to get big enough and then someone will love me. And I was obviously wrong. And the women, they're looking for other qualities, but us men, we get off the track and we don't even realize that. So don't build up your muscles too much and neglect your heart and your mind in becoming a real man. Because believe me, I'm way behind the curve. I'm like 49, sorry. And starting to learn how to become a man because I had no training. Yeah. And I had to get my heart broken in order to have that happen.
To open you up. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the topic of parasites, because we just you mentioned that. And in your experience, just as most everyone is constipated, in your experience, does most everyone also have parasites within them?
Well, everyone does. Mm-hmm. And you want them to be there. You want that diversity to be there in the microbiome for when those conditions present themselves.
Right.
And that those microbes are there to process that food. But then if any one type of food gets out of balance more than another, then you've got these monocultured microbiology, and then it can tend to proliferate. And so the question is, does the lower frequency energies attract the parasites, or do the parasites create the lower frequency energies within you? Right. And the answer is, so that's the chicken or the egg, both.
Both. Mm-hmm.
So what's the answer? A higher frequency.
Yeah.
And then the parasites, as you can see on planet Earth, the light was growing, the electricity was growing, the network was growing because we had the internet, and everything got to get exposed. So people were getting smarter about what was going on planet Earth, and we were evolving because we had information. We don't have it anymore as much because what they've done with the censorship and everything. But at the time, it was blowing up so fast they couldn't manage it until they got the AI up and running fully so that they could basically monitor every single word that's spoken, every single word that's typed, every single word is monitored. And then you're getting booted way down in the algorithms or deplatformed. So as that energy grew on planet Earth, the light started to grow. People began to become aware that there was more going on, and this whole pharmaceutical thing or whatever, and every other rabbit hole that you could go down on the internet. So the light was growing on planet Earth, and it still is. And now these parasites are kicking and screaming, trying to cram this stuff down our throats, the communism. Yeah. Men can have babies, and we should all be eating insects, and, you'll own nothing and we'll enslave you and you'll be happy, but no, you'll be miserable too, Clousy. and we'll be miserable. So we'll all be miserable because no matter how much control you get, Klaus Schwab, you're going to be miserable because you don't have love in your heart.
Yes.
And so they're afraid. They live by fear, and the way they assume their fear is by control. Yes. So they are the parasites.
Yep.
They are exuding their one last final hurrah that they get because they're being eliminated right now because the consciousness is growing, the light is growing. And the same thing is true for the parasites inside of you as they're dying off, as you change your lifestyle and bring more electricity, energy, and consciousness. Not only are you eliminating the energetic parasites within you, which is I'm fat, dumb, ugly, and worthless. That's a parasite. That's a mental parasite. Which does have, parasites that live in your brain that live off that frequency. And as soon as you start changing that frequency, then there's a battle. But if you stay with it and stay persistent in your evolution and consciousness and growth, and you keep moving through everything that comes up to be dealt with, and you keep changing your mind, even though it wants you to stay, because your mom made you feel whatever, she abused you and she made you think that you were fat, ugly, and worthless, and now you're like, wait a minute, you're getting counseling, you're trying to make a difference, and you're changing your thought frequencies, and those parasites are like getting zapped with a frequency that doesn't emanate with them. So it's a rife frequency kind of consciousness, but it's a go outside in the sunlight. Parasites hate the sunlight because the sunlight purifies. It goes all the way through your whole body and purifies everything. Same thing with like rivers and waterfalls and oceans. That also purifies the spirit. So there's a correlation between all of these natural elements and the power, like the sun equates to the power, and the sun goes right through you and cleans out everything out of you that is diminishing the flow of that true life power. So when you get rid of parasites, you want to attack it from the physiological point of view, which that's the reason why you bring in the herbal blood. And that's why I do this Puradyme cleanse, because it hits all the bases with these herbs that clean out all the gunk, with the herbal blood that kills the parasites, the enzymes that break down the biofilms they're living in. You wouldn't need the enzymes if you managed your own enzyme activity every day and maximized it by eating moderation of the freshest living foods that you can and having no stress in your life. But what happens is our modern lifestyle is burning up our enzyme potential. It's burning up the enzyme potential on the physiological level, which then there's no more ability to conduct light through all these processes in the body, because the enzymes are these catalysts that either create electrical current, or they also break down substrates into their subsequent, components. So enzymes break things down, but they also build things up. So the enzymes are a part of a catabolic and anabolic process. And so like when you water fast, after about the third or fourth day, your liver starts to blast your body with massive amounts of enzyme activity. And then it starts breaking everything down, but it also starts refining and building up the tissues as well. And so fasting, everyone thinks it's only an anabolic process, but it's a catabolic process, but it's actually an anabolic process as well, because as you're fasting and all the old gunk, junk, slime, sludge, and filth is being broken down by this massive influx of enzyme activity through the liver, gallbladder, pancreas, other endocrine glands as well, not only are you having that catabolic of the old sludgy, slimy stuff that shouldn't be there at all, but also a building and refining through those same enzyme activity is rebuilding and regenerating and refining the finer tissues in the brain in the glands, in the organs, and all throughout the entire body. All the cells are actually being refined. So fasting is a catabolic and anabolic process, and all the tissues are refined at the end of a water fast, whether it's,
Right.
5 days or 55 days,
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're doing with the Puradyme is, until people can get, to a water fast, is we're mimicking that process.
Got you.
And we're accelerating it, because about 95% of the people are not ready to water fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 3 or 4% can only do like 30 days or something, just
Yeah.
enough to get it kicked off, but not enough to really get
Make a difference. Yeah.
it going. You know, like, any time you miss a meal, it's good, unless you have like bulimia or anorexia or something
Sure.
like that,
Yeah.
an eating disorder. But for most people, to miss a meal and just skip breakfast or skip lunch is good. It gives your body a chance to kind of, catch up and, you
Yeah. Yeah.
know, get some efficiency going. You might be hungry for a minute, but if you keep pushing through that, then it'll start burning up yesterday's crap. And by the
Yeah.
time you get to dinner, you're like, oh, okay, you're actually hungry,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you're going to be able to absorb and utilize a lot better. So missing a meal or two or three or 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 is a good thing if you're conscious about it. If you're
Right.
aware of what you're doing, if you're understanding the phenomenon of fasting, then it's actually very safe, very effective. And so there's the 1% of the people that work their way up through this process that can actually do some of these longer fasts that actually do make a big difference. And they're doing it for the right reasons. They're
Right.
not like a food disorder person that's
Mm-hmm.
like, if I fast, then I'll be good enough, because I understand
Yeah.
that very well. Or you have like some kind of eating disorder that's going to make you worse.
Yeah.
Like, it's a small percentage, but some of those people, you got to teach them, listen, man, we got to go get something to eat, and we got
Yeah.
to sit here and we got to eat. Like,
Yeah.
you have to learn how to fast, and you have to learn how to eat.
Yeah.
You have
For
to learn
sure.
how to dog down, France style, like
Yeah.
eat. You got to learn how to eat and laugh and enjoy it and have fun. And this is amazing. And this is great food. And I'm enjoying it and I'm
Yeah.
laughing. And then you have to also learn how to be able to fast as well,
Yeah.
And so you have to, it's the human dichotomy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's cool.
really, when in Rome, when
Mm-hmm.
it's time to eat, it's time to eat. So a lot of people think that, I can understand why people think with what I present that I've got some kind of eating disorder or whatever. I can't blame them for that or whatever. But I mean, I know how to eat, and I know how to also not eat. And
Right.
though knowing how to do that has brought me to the center where it's like I can either have food or not have food,
Yeah. You
and
have that
now
flexibility.
that's right. And now I can sit in the center and stay more balanced,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And I don't really need that much food. As we get older, we don't need as much food, but we still keep eating the same amount. That's why
Yeah.
we get fat. That's why we get cancer. That's why we get diabetes. And
Yeah.
that's why we get bogged down. And that's why we get constipated. So what we're working on is moving away, from excessive eating for the
Mm-hmm.
wrong reasons,
Yeah, for sure. And as far as the enzymes go through Puradyme, like even if you're eating 100% raw food diet, you're incorporating the juicing, the benefit of adding the enzymes into that mix is because I heard you talk before about even like the living foods, it's the enzymes. We're in such an enzyme deficit. And so regardless, it's still going to be massively beneficial to start adding the enzymes into your living food diet if that's how you're choosing to eat.
Well, the food sucks. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, the food
if
sucks.
you were if you're when you're picking your own food
Yeah.
out of your own garden and out of your own orchard,
Mhm.
then you don't need the enzymes.
Right.
But if you're getting all these foods and they're like, and then all the people on the internet, I get it. They're like, you don't need it. And it's like, yeah, but these oranges are 2 weeks old
Yeah.
and the life force is gone
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the enzyme activity is diminished. I'm not going to say it isn't there. It's
Yeah.
still holding a charge, but it ain't like it was when it was on the
Yeah.
tree. So we're out of the current. And the enzymes are spark plugs of the current. to activate the potential of just more current moving through you, Now me, I go to the market every day. I get
Yeah.
freshly picked pineapples, bro. Like I know,
Yeah.
I still take the enzymes every day
Mm-hmm.
because I'm, like I said, I want to hopefully get married and I got to stay in the game. So I'm keeping my virility high, my energy high, my health high, and it maximizes my potential. Plus, I'm still working on stuff that I've been working on my entire life.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still working on stuff because what happens is when we're younger, a lot of bad stuff happens
Mm-hmm.
because our parents don't know any better. And so then we get all these brain plaques and other plaques that are neuroprotective plaques because of what they do to the little children. And the parents are dumb
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know any better and they don't do any research and they don't
Yeah.
look into this stuff and they don't ask about heavy metals and 180 other detrimental isolated synthetic substances that
Yeah.
are inimical to the child's health. But yet, so then the whole society is dumbed down on
Totally.
purpose to make their spiritual potential and their health potential so that they can become customers for life.
Yeah.
You can either take those pills or these pills, okay?
Yeah.
I'm taking my own pills because they're from nature. They activate a potential instead of the continuation of the suppression of the
Yeah.
symptoms from the original suppression of the flow of life energy current.
Yeah.
And we may be working on removing some of these plaques out of our brains for the rest
Yeah.
of our lives.
And I think that's so important to really start really bringing some awareness to that, because there's a very small percentage of people who were raised on an acreage to hippie parents who fed them organic food. That's just, I mean, almost no one had that experience. Maybe more so now, but definitely not in our era, and like you said, all of us have had not the procedure, but a lot of procedures when we were infants, and it just never stops. And
Yeah.
so putting some awareness, like, well, what's contained in those things, the amalgam in our teeth, these things that our parents, like you said, they didn't know, but the toxic load that we carry around is just, it's so high. And so all of these things that we can do by taking the enzymes, doing the juicing, cleansing, eating organic food, it's just peeling the layers back.
Purity, herbs, all kinds of
Yeah.
anything you can do to cultivate the garden of the gut,
Yep.
activate your life force potential, and maximize the current. Because the
Exactly.
hope is that you can raise the current so high through your nervous system that it actually begins to dissolve these hardened accretions.
Right.
And if
I
yay or nay, whatever,
Yeah, right.
well, try at least.
I had one gal ask me, because I use these Puradyme now, like I take them like 3 times a day. And she asked me, she said, well, if you're going to take enzymes, external enzymes, won't your body stop producing enzymes? Like, much like if you do hormone therapy or you take melatonin, something like this. And so I was just trying to say, well, the food's depleted, and we're, for me, living in the Pacific Northwest, it's like all brought in and we don't get food off the trees, like you just said. But I think a lot of people have asked that question. I've seen that kind of out in the streams of things about the body. Always, you're going to have to be on an enzyme product for the rest of your life if you start taking them. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, I don't think that that's been my experience.
Yeah.
In fact, I find it to be the other way around
Mm-hmm.
because I will go off of the enzymes for periods of time
Yeah.
and my digestion, utilization, absorption is
Yeah.
absolutely magnificent.
Perfect.
So my experience is that that is not true at all.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
The enzymes are grown on mushrooms.
Hmm.
Mushrooms or mycelium or fungus in the nature are what break things down, you know.
Yeah,
So
right.
and so these enzymes, the main thing that they're used for is to break down the old, you
Right.
know. And so until we can get people water fasting
Hmm.
to get to their own enzyme potential, So basically, it kind of Lou is the example. I started a little later, but to be honest with you, I've been taking enzymes for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started taking enzymes before I even went on the raw food diet. So it was the enzymes because my ex-wife, she had the blue-green algae.
Right.
And I was like, well, what is that? And she goes, well, that's an algae, and I'm going to start taking that one of these days. And I said, well, hell, let's take it now.
Yeah.
And it changed my life because the
Mm-hmm.
phenylethylamine in there was so anti-inflammatory for my brain
Yep.
after everything I had been through. And then I went to and I became a distributor for them. And then they had these enzymes. And so they had algae enhanced enzymes.
Yep.
And I just started popping those. And that was what I was like, what are enzymes? And I just did a deep dive into the enzymes. And then when the raw food came, I was totally mentally prepared because I was wondering, why does this wheatgrass make me feel so much better before my
Yeah.
workouts? Why do these juices just give me so much energy?
Right.
Bam, it was the enzymes. And so when I go off the enzymes, my
You're good.
everything still works because I think it's been supported and it's
Yes.
not weakened. Like everyone's pancreas is just
Yeah.
barely making it because they eat like a pancakes with high fructose maple syrup fake, and their pancreas is just
Yeah. It's
dying
maxed
and
out.
just sluggish. And so, you know, I think it's actually works the opposite of what they're saying. I
Mm-hmm.
think it starts bringing in the enzyme potential and alleviating the stress on the pancreas, alleviating the stress on the gallbladder, alleviating the stress
Yeah.
on the liver so that they can do some of the other things that it can do and starts awakening their potential while the enzymes take off because 80 to 90% of our enzyme activity is going to digesting food. It should only really be like 20 or 30%. Then the rest of it would be metabolic enzymes for tissue healing and repair. But since our diet is dead food and we eat so much of it because we're not being nourished, and we're stressed out
Yep.
and we're burning up more nutrition that way, we're basically killing ourselves with food while we're simultaneously starving to death, while we're basically just destroying our internal organs because they're overworked.
Yeah.
So bringing in the enzymes helps to lighten the load on all of those, on the whole endocrine system,
Yeah.
really.
It allows for some freedom within the body to start to kind of clean up and to, how whatever needs work within the body, it feels like the enzymes will just kind of allow for the body to be able to do what it knows how to do to kind of get out of the way of yourself in a sense.
The supplemental enzymes allow for there to be more of your own metabolic enzymes available
Right.
for tissue healing and repair. So you
Mm-hmm.
start to feel better when you do the enzyme supplementation and start breaking down and utilizing more of your food. And what's in the enzymes is actually rocket fuel for the microbes in the gut. So they break that down and then they transmit that into really, really powerful, beneficial, you know, metabolites is the only word I
Yeah.
can think of. It's microbe poop, and
Mm-hmm.
the food has been cooked. So you don't have those same microorganisms to break it down. And so there are cooked food microorganisms for sure, but they're not the ones that produce them. It's almost like a pathological
Right.
state within the gut when there's only cooked food,
Yeah.
and so bringing in the fresh natural stuff might cause people disruptions at first, but if you stick with it, eventually the microbes will catch on and a lot of those fresh foods will start flushing out the waste matter,
Yeah.
and the enzymes can help to break down a lot of that waste matter. And so the philosophy is this carries it out, the cleanse carries it out, the enzymes break it down and allows for some permeability within those biofilms where these little microbes are just hiding out at the bottom
Yeah.
of the biofilm in a hibernated state.
Mm-hmm.
So you may even through some kind of juice cleanse or whatever, or some kind of herbs even, kill the biofilms that are more at the top, that are
Yep.
more active, but it's the ones down dormant, hiding away, just waiting
Yeah.
for you to eat another piece of cheese, and then they just keep building these biofilms. At the bottom, they're just all dormant. But as they
Yeah.
get more towards the top, they get more and more active as they get, and then there's these clouds,
Yep.
and then the little clouds, they break off, and then they go land somewhere else, and then they start a whole new biofilm at the bottom, and then the ones down here are dormant, sleeping in the bottom, and they shoot up like this, and as they climb up, they get more and more active, and then these ones up here at the top that are living in these little clouds that break off, they're the most active ones, eating and pooping in your gut.
Right.
They want to survive too. So that's why you're blasting them with high frequency Puradyme enzymes, probiotics,
Yeah.
herbal blood, and cleanse. And if you stick with it long enough and keep electrifying the system and working on your positive thinking,
Yep.
working on your emotions, blasting your gut full of the most high frequency stuff, because there's also another thing about Puradyme is that every batch is prayed over, and the intention there is extremely powerful. And then you're using herbs and enzymes and
Yeah.
probiotics to cultivate and nurture light in your gut. Because the most important thing to know about the enzymes is that they're just precursors. They're catalysts for light. They're catalysts for metabolic reactions. They're catalysts for, digestive processes.
Mm-hmm.
They do everything. Everything in the human body is done by enzymes. And if you can take the load off of all your endocrine glands
Mm-hmm.
by supplementing from the outside, those organs and glands are not going to stop producing. They're not going to stop functioning. They're just going to
Right.
finally actually have a little bit of energy, especially if you're going to stay on the cooked food. Then you really want to do enzyme
Yeah.
supplementation. Take the load off the kidneys and the liver and the gallbladder and the pancreas and the endocrine system, and then they're actually going to start to be able to do some other stuff. So you'll start feeling better. So
Yep.
everyone I know that is in tune with their body really loves the enzymes and has had some incredible results, especially lately when it comes to weight loss, tumors, cysts, PMS, cancers, blood problems, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it
Yeah.
purifies and thins. Enzymes also thin the blood because
Yep.
it gets so coagulated from all the sticky fats and the stagnant carbohydrates and the lack of energy sitting around all day in the Wi-Fi eating microwave foods. The blood gets really coagulated.
Yes.
Enzymes also act as a blood thinner, so another beneficial effect from all the people that are having the blood clots and stuff.
Yeah. And then also too, like what we've been talking about, it also is going to open your consciousness up, as a byproduct of bringing the enzymes in and cleaning up the inside. Consciousness will start opening, the heart will start opening. These are other amazing byproducts of taking something like this. So I want to talk just a little bit about this summer juice cleanse that you're going to be hosting through the Elite Video Club and what that's going to look like. It's going to be kind of, why don't you tell everybody how are you going to put this together? What's going to be involved? What's the length of it? Are you going to be incorporating the Puradyme to go along with the juicing? Lay it
I'm going
out.
to be incorporating the Puradyme. You don't have to. You can just do the juices if you want.
Okay.
I highly recommend doing the Core 4 from Puradyme, the cleanse, the herbal blood, the Purazyme, and the Pura Life, the
Okay.
probiotics. But you don't have to. It's for members only, of course, and it's going to be
Okay.
from the 20th of August to the 27th
Okay.
of August. So if you're going to do the Core 4 from Puradyme, you want to order that now so that you have it starting on the 20th. And then I'm going to launch it on a Sunday, which is the 20th.
Okay.
And then on Thursday that week, I'm going to do another live Zoom in the midweek to see how everybody's doing.
Okay.
And then we'll end it on Sunday, the 27th. All the while, I'll be posting support videos in the morning on the Elite Video Club through
Okay.
the Vimeo.
Okay.
I'll
That's
be doing
amazing.
it with you. And then on Thursday, we'll have a live Zoom to check in to see how everyone's doing midway. And then we have the children. I won't say that because I don't want anyone looking it up.
Okay. F7 delete.
Yeah. But no, just I don't because they could look that up and probably slip
Right.
in there.
Got
And
you.
the link for the support page
Mm-hmm.
is for it's a group that we have on WhatsApp, and that's where everybody supports each other over there.
Right. So,
And
okay.
we were talking about making a Facebook page
Okay.
also, but I think the WhatsApp works well enough.
Yeah. I mean, I think that everyone can kind of come together there. And if, they can share their experiences, maybe get some feedback from others who are going through it. I think, I think
You're
WhatsApp,
part of the group?
yeah,
Yeah. WhatsApp isn't everyone's favorite. I get it. It's like more stuff for Zuckerberg
yeah,
but it's whatever. If it wasn't, then there's Facebook. I mean, we could
I know. Like,
do
what?
a Telegram thing, but that's not as navigable. The
Yeah,
WhatsApp
exactly.
is easily navigated, and who cares what Zuckerberg knows? You only should care about what God knows about you,
Yeah,
and He knows everything. Even the things Zuckerberg doesn't know, God knows.
yeah,
So don't worry about
exactly.
Google and big tech because they're weak and they're afraid of
Totally.
you,
Yeah.
and
So who
we are
cares if they're
power.
listening in,
Yeah.
right?
They need a juice cleanse. They need a
They need
colonoscopy.
to choose cleanse. Yeah. They really do. Yeah. And I just want to say again, like the Patreon Elite Video Club, if anyone isn't on there or hasn't joined or have been thinking about joining, it's like I've been involved in different Patreon groups, and I really, really, really look. And I can't always take part live, but you usually always put up the replay. And it's not the same as what you're getting with you on YouTube. It's not the same. It's a completely deeper level. There's just so much more to it. And it really is, it's just a great vulnerable place where you kind of speak your truth on a more deeper level, but I think it really allows for others to really kind of tap into themselves in that way as well, asking like what we began this podcast talking about, the awareness piece, the self-inquiry piece, the all of these things that really truly at the end of the day make the difference in transforming yourself, which I think so many people want, especially now. So
Well, it's uncensored.
yeah, it's uncensored.
I use Zoom and then I use Vimeo. And so
Yeah.
far, I've never had any problem with either one of those, regardless of what we talk about. Today was also just super censored. Like
Yeah,
you just know where you cannot go, and it sucks.
it does.
But that's what we're dealing with right now. I think everyone understands what's going on, but the free flow of information is no longer a free flow of information on
Nope.
these platforms. And that's something we have to deal with. Whatever it is they're censoring is the information you want to know.
Yeah. I mean, my podcast is really talking about holistic health and all the different facets. Is I don't only have people who are like just raw foodists on the show, but I'm on my third strike now where I've been, shut down. This is it one more time, and it's just from using, I said fasting can save your life on one of my titles, and that was it. I'm out. So it's so unfortunate because you're not able to just organically kind of really speak and say how you really truly feel or talk about things that are really important. Whether or not others resonate with that is besides the point. But with the Elite Video Club, you're able to get on there, you're able to speak your mind, you're able to say things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to say. And I think that's why there's this, it's like it just feels like this place of just truth where, like you said, where you're on YouTube and there's this censoring and you just kind of sense it because it has to be that way, you know?
So be
So,
warned.
so
It's just
yeah, be warned.
warned because we go there. Like because that's where I get it off my chest. All the stuff like how stupid it all is. It's
Yeah.
just ridiculous. But it's like I mean I'm lucky because I've always known. I knew day one about all of it. I'll tell you what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
I know how they think. I've been tracking these wonderful people for years, and I can tell you what's coming down the pipeline. I
Yeah.
can tell you what happened in Hawaii. more than anybody else. Like, and I'm not even on Maui, but I know what they're
Yeah.
doing because I know what that piece of land is and I know
Yep.
what they want to do with it and why that happened. You can just, it's so easy. The
Yeah.
skies, the water, the food, the
Yeah.
medicine, the censorship, the politics, the communism. It's so easy to see. It's like
Totally.
the book has already been written, and there's the only source that you need is common sense.
Yeah.
Many of you know what I'm talking about. So
Yep.
it's so just have fun.
Yeah.
It's paradise on earth. No matter where I go, it's paradise. I just want to go for a walk.
Yeah. And you make it that way, right? It's you make it. We make our lives the way we want it to be. One thing on that, and I know you share this thought with me, is one place that you can go to find these kinds of thoughts is the David Wolf's Telegram page, which I love that as well. There's some really good information that he puts out with these types of things that we don't usually see
Easily absorbable little
easily.
snippets.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So that's a place
Yeah.
to go and check that out as well. But thank you again so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. I think we were able to kind of cover, everything we wanted to, and then some of the more deeper things I think we both share in that, the more of the emotional, spiritual side, and the juicing and the cleansing, super important, but we kind of got both, kind of split down the middle today. So that was pretty amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to start the juice cleanse. And for those of you who haven't checked out the Elite Video Club, I just can't say enough about it. I love it. I look forward to every video you put out, and it's just a beautiful platform. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Shirley. That's great. I really appreciate you over there too. I appreciate everyone over there. That's my little family,
Yeah.
in
Yeah, it
con
feels like a family. That's what it does feel like. Really does.
cool.
Sweet. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on, and we'll talk to you next time.
Okay, thanks, Shirley. Bye-bye.